Hi, this is David with EdgeStar Technical Support. Today we're going to be talking about the KBC51SS, our non-pressurized kegerator. We'll show you how to set it up, what comes in the box, and talk about how it all goes together. Alright, here we have our KBC51SS. This is our non-pressurized kegerator. I wanted to show you what comes in the box, and we'll talk about hooking it up. But one of the first things I want to cover here is to clear up some things about the unit. And the one thing about the unit that we need to clarify is that on the outside of your box and in the owner's manual, it says that this is used for draft, can be used for draft beer and non-pressurized kegs. What we are doing is we're running this as a non-pressurized kegerator only. You can try to use it as a draft beer kegerator, but all you're going to get is foam. And so we recommend that you use it as a non-pressurized unit only. So let's get into what comes in the box, and we'll talk about some of the things that are in the packaging, and then we'll get into actually how to actually hook it up. And this is the unit. When you first get it, there's quite a bit of tape around it. There's tape here at the end of the spout, and if you open it up, there's a big button right here on top, and you're just going to open that up. It's spring-loaded. It'll swing back. And in here you'll find some cardboard packaging and tape, and that holds your tap here for use with the non-pressurized keg. And you'll take that out and unpack it, and then this will slide right out. And in here we have our beer line, which goes to our spout. This line is our CO2 or our gas line coming from our cartridge here, which is a cartridge slash regulator. The regulator for the CO2 is built into the top of the unit. And what you'll do is you're going to unscrew this part, and you're going to load your CO2 cartridge into this, and then this whole assembly will screw back into here. And then once you've got your cartridge in place, you'll swing it back up and lock it in place, and that way you can get it shut with the keg in there and your tap installed. Now the other thing in here, there's a couple of things inside the unit to talk about, and I don't know how good the view is going to be. There's a vacuum seal down here in the bottom, and what that does is that when you put the keg down in there, it will help to keep it in place so it won't slide out as the keg floats. So as you tap your keg and you start using it, it's going to want to float, because in the bottom of this unit you're actually going to put some water. There's a fill line in here, and what that does is help to maximize the temperature on the unit to make it more efficient, and we can get a few more degrees out of it. So it basically sits in a water bath while it's being used. So there's a fill line, there's a max line right here at the back at the bottom, and then that suction cup will keep that keg from floating up once you've got water in it. Now you don't have to use water in it, but we recommend it for best results. And again, that suction cup will keep that keg from coming up, because the lighter the keg becomes, the more buoyant it will be with the water sitting in the bottom of it. So that keeps that all held down. And that's pretty much for the inside of the kegerator. On the outside of the kegerator here, we've got a couple of things to talk about. We have our controls here, which is our temp up and down. We have a drain here for the water. The drain is actually underneath. It's right about where my finger's at. It's about midway underneath the unit. There's a spout there, and if you need to drain the water, you would pull this all the way down, and that opens up, pulls up the little poppet in the drain system there so you can let the water out. And then of course here we have our dispensing tap, and the handle is actually included in your packaging. I don't have it installed right now, but I'll show you how that goes on there. And then up here in the top, this is our CO2 regulator. This is how we regulate our CO2. There is no gauge on this unit, so what you need to do is you'll need to get your keg all set up, get it chilled, and then at that point you're going to start pouring beer, and you'll very carefully adjust that until you get the right amount of foam. You're not going to know how much you're putting into it. You're just going to have to do it visually. So, and then all the way over to this side here, all the way over to the negative until it stops, that's completely off. That will shut the gas flow off altogether. And then if we turn it towards the plus, it'll actually spin past there and go almost all the way around, and that is your maximum output. You normally wouldn't run it there. You're probably going to run it somewhere between the plus and the minus as far as your pressure goes. Let's talk about the back of the unit for a minute. And in the back of this unit, we have our thermoelectric element. This is a thermoelectric cooler. Works a lot like our thermoelectric wine coolers. It uses the same parts, same principle, and does the same thing. So wherever you put this at, all these vents here, and there's a big vent here on the fan, and then there's another one over here, and all of those need to be kept clear and clean. So you'll need to put this in a place, for example, like on this table, so that you have good airflow, good air circulation, and make sure that these stay clean. And you can use a vacuum with a brush attachment every so often and just come in here and just kind of clean these up, and you'll clean this fan up as well, because over time what's going to happen, we're going to get a lot of dust buildup here and over here, because what happens is the air comes in and then comes out both sides. So make sure that's all kept clean. And back here in the back you have your model and serial number, the number for customer service. And that's all very important, because if you have a problem with the kegerator, there's the information. It's right at your fingertips. And as a matter of fact, as I always say in my videos, I recommend that you write that on the front of your owner's manual, which does come with the unit. Just write it down here at the bottom so that you have it handy. You can just grab this, call customer service, and get your questions answered, and we don't have to spend time looking for that serial number. So again, we have our manual and our tap. Now let's get into some of the things here that come with the unit. And let me kind of set this back here. So we've got a couple of other pieces. As you can see here, we have a drip tray. And that drip tray actually sets underneath the unit. And down in here, it's got two places where it clips to. So once that's in there, just like that. So it just clips to the bottom of the unit. So you're going to set everything on the counter, and then you're going to line this up with the tabs back there and just push it until it clicks. So this is your base. Of course, this is a two-piece, so you can pull this out and clean it, and then you can set your glass here for, it's a glass support for your glass of beer. So packaged with the unit, we give you a starter kit to get you started on the CO2. We have, let me kind of show you here. So we have 3 CO2 cylinders to start with, and by the way, these CO2 cylinders are food grade cylinders. So you want to make sure that you get cylinders from us or some other place that has a food grade cylinder. The ones for paintball contain oil as a lubricant, and it can make you sick. So make sure that you get the food grade CO2, and that will keep you nice and healthy. And in here we have our handle, which goes on the unit. And the handle has some threads on it, and I'll show you how that goes on there real quick. So we're just going to unpack our handle here. And then what we do, and that's solid metal, by the way, there's no plastic there, that's a really good handle. What you're going to do is you're just going to kind of thread it in there, just like that. And once you get it down to where it bottoms out, you can stop turning, because you don't want it too tight. This all is plastic, and you can crack that housing. So there we are. So now it's easier to pull. So you get a pretty good range on it there. So once you start moving this, it's going to start dribbling out. You're going to feel some resistance, and then it gives. And at that point, that's when the beer is going to start flowing. And if you push it all the way down like that, it's going to stay down like that, and it's going to really flow some beer. So just be prepared for that. And in here also, besides our CO2 cylinder, we have our cleaning kit, and we have some extra gaskets in here. Now the gaskets, there's only one gasket that you're going to use in here with as far as the kegerator is concerned, because again, remember, we're running this as a non-pressurized setup. So what you're going to find is you have a little cleaning kit here, and then we have some white O-rings, and we have 2 of these gray O-rings, and then you've got some other black O-rings in here, and those are used for the draft kit, and you're not going to use those. So we can set those aside. Because remember, you're going to have some draft parts in here. So these are designed so that these will actually go over the tap to help seal the keg to the tap. And I'll show you how those go on. They go on there pretty easy. This part goes down inside the keg. As you can see, it's cone shaped, and that fits down inside the keg. And then this other part will seal the bottom of the tap once you get this put on. I'll show you how that works. one of the things that you're going to want to do probably before you get ready to use the unit is you're going to want to clean the line in here. There's only one line to clean. It's a pretty short one, and that's that one that's right in the front, right here. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to make up some cleaning solution. And by the way, the unit doesn't come with any cleaning solution. You'll need to get that from the retailer. They sell a cleaning kit that you can get with the powdered beer line cleaner, and you'll mix that solution up according to the directions on the bag, and you're going to use that in here, and you'll fill up this squeeze bottle. So what you would basically do is stick this down in a container in that beer line cleaner, squeeze it so it draws it up into the bulb, and then you would connect your hose to this, and then what you'll do is you're going to connect the other end of the line to this beer line, and then you're going to open up your tap here, and you can leave it open like that, and you'll put a container underneath here to catch it, and you're going to force this in there and clean that line out. That gets any dust and debris out of the line initially, and then later on as you use the keg, after every keg you're going to want to do that again to keep that line clean. So this is the only line that you need to worry about. When you're done cleaning and you've squeezed all this solution through and it's come out, then you're going to go ahead and close that off. And you might want to fill this up with clean, clear water, rinse the bulb out real good, fill the bulb up with water again, and then come in here and squirt it through here again and open up your tap and make sure that that line gets flushed. So that's how you work the cleaning kit. So I recommend that you clean it before you use it and then after every keg. Alright, so in the rest of it here, again we have our seals here. The unit does come with some Heineken style taps, but you're not going to use those, but you are going to use these CO2 cylinders. So in our next segment I'm going to show you how this all goes together. Alright, so I wanted to show you now, we'll show you how to get that keg hooked up. Now, just so you know, I don't have a keg to install in here today, but we're just going to have to imagine that we have one, and I'll show you how it all goes together. So the first thing we're going to talk about is that inside the unit, if you remember earlier in the video, I told you that you pour water into the bottom of the unit. Down in here in the bottom, see if I can get that loose, there we go. Down here in the bottom of the unit, there's a fill line. It's marked max. It's right here on the back wall. The very first thing that you're going to do before you do anything else is you're going to fill it up to that max line with water. Just plain tap water, just cold tap water. That's all you need. And that will help to cool the beer a little bit further through evaporation. As that water evaporates, it's going to impart a cooling onto the keg in addition to what the unit will provide as far as cooling is concerned. So that will help to cool that keg even further. So for now we're going to assume that we've got the water in here and we're ready to hook everything up. So what we're going to do, the first thing we need to do is go ahead and we need to get our tap into the beer. So we're going to assume that we have our keg here and we're ready to tap this. What you need to do first is install your rubber O-ring. These are the pieces that you need to do this. The tap, your cartridge, and then your gray seal. And so what you're going to do, we need to get this seal up on that tap. In order to do that, we need to lube things up a little bit. So what we're going to do is just take some water. I've got some here. And you're just going to kind of coat this with just a light coating of water. And remember, your cone side goes towards the keg. So you would put the flat side facing up. And what you're going to do is you're going to push that. You're going to push it all the way up until it bottoms out. So now it's not going to move any further because the hole inside of here is tapered. So now we would insert this into our keg. We're going to get one side latched onto one side of the keg and we're going to pull it over until it clicks on the other side. So now we've got our keg here, our keg is installed, our tap is put in, we're ready to hook this up. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your keg and you're going to drop it down in here, and then we're going to hook our lines up. Now if you look, you have a male beer line on this side, you have a female CO2. So you're going to orientate your tap, turn your keg until you have it facing the right way. So the way this would work is this gray button is going to face towards the front of the unit, and what we would do is put our keg in there, and we're going to click that line in until it clicks. And then we're going to take our pressure line, we're going to click that in. So that's what it looks like when your keg is in there. So now that we've got our keg in there, we've got our water in there, we've got our tap and seal and our lines hooked up, now we're ready to add some gas to the mix. So what you're going to do is you're going to swing this down, you're going to take your cartridge holder off, you just unscrew it off. And by the way, if you ever get confused with this, there's a little pictogram here, shows you exactly how everything works. So what you're going to do now is take your CO2 cylinder, and the narrow end is going to face up. You're going to drop it in here, and then what you're going to do, you can even tilt this slightly, you're going to start this in there, and what's going to happen is if I screw that in enough, it will pierce the top of the cartridge. I'm not going to do that here for obvious reasons because I'd lose the gas that was in the cartridge. So you're going to screw that all the way down, and when you feel it bottom and it tightens up, don't turn it anymore. Don't try and crank it down, because what will happen is it will overly compress the seal in there and we'll end up having a leak. If at any point you get confused about how this goes together, I've got a video on EdgeStar.com with another one of our mini kegerators, the KBC51SS. That one shows both the regular pressurized kegs, installation and use, and the non-pressurized installation and use. So you can see it in both ways on that video, and then you'll have this video also to refer to later if you need to. So once you're done with that, and I'm going to go ahead and take this out, once you're done installing your CO2 cylinder, and everything's in here, so what you're going to do is you're going to screw that all the way down. We're going to assume that we have a cylinder in there. You're going to push it up and click it into place. So now we've got our keg installed, we've got our gas installed, everything is copacetic. We can shut the lid. Now at this point, what we're going to do is we're going to turn the unit on. So the master power switch on this unit is over here on the side. So we're going to flip it on, and it will start to cool. Now the controls on the front are very simple. They don't do anything but go up and down. So if you look, it's going to show you the current temperature inside the unit, and we can actually change it up and down. Now there's no beep here, so you're going to have to watch the display. A lot of times we'll get a beep as confirmation. On this unit you don't get that. So your temperature up, temperature down. And this thing only goes to about 36, 37 degrees. So that's assuming that you have it in 74 below environment. The cooler it is around the unit, the lower it's going to go. With the water in there and the evaporation process that we've started, it should drop a few more degrees beyond that. So we should be sitting around 30, let's say 34, 35. That's what you ought to be getting with the water in it, and everything set to the lowest temperature. So let's get back to our beer. So we've got our beer loaded, our cartridge is loaded, the system is primed, we've got gas in the keg. Now we need to adjust it. So as I was talking about earlier, now you're going to start pouring a few beers, and you're going to very slowly adjust this up and down until you get the right amount of foam in your glass. And once you do that, you shouldn't have to reset that again. The only time you're going to have to reset that again is when you get a new keg, and that keg is not calibrated yet, so you're going to need to calibrate the gas on it when you replace it. So with it set like this, we should have sufficient gas to run one keg, and that pressure should be consistent throughout the entire keg. Remember also, because we have the water in the bottom of the unit, probably once a week I would say, the manual doesn't really tell you this, once a week I would drain the water out and change it, because if you don't, it's liable to get kind of funky in there, start smelling. So make sure at least once a week, once every 5 days or so, that you drain that water out, pull your keg out, wipe everything down, and put the water back in there, fresh water, so that you don't have a problem with that. So that's the operation on the keg. Just remember, these are for non-pressurized kegs only, and once you get everything hooked up and your gas is adjusted, you should have a nice cold glass of beer. One last thing I want to cover is a little bit of maintenance, and really, to be honest with you, there's not a lot of maintenance here. mainly what we're looking for is keeping those vents clean in the back, keeping your beer lines clean, and the only other thing that you might run into once in a while is an occasional CO2 leak. You can actually soap this up and do a bubble test on it. If you find that this is leaking, they give you some O-rings in the package that you can put up in the piercing valve, because over time they are going to become compressed. So you're going to replace those. We give you a few replacements. And those replacements, the O-rings are kind of white or clear in color, and they sit up inside of this. You just push them up in there, and then that's all you need to do. In order to get the old one out, you might need to get a little hook and pick and go in there and just kind of pick it out, but then you'll just push the new one in place. So that should solve all your CO2 leaks. We really shouldn't have anything here. Once these are engaged, they have a plastic connector that locks over the top inside of here internally and will prevent that from leaking. There's no O-rings inside of here. So if, for example, you find that something's not right with the unit, the rest of this is going to be about just things not working as they should. If you find that the display is dark, it's black, it's not working, it's plugged in and running, but we have no display, or you can't adjust up or down, or if the unit leaks water from the bottom here, and by the way, you need to make sure that this latch is all the way up, because if it isn't, it's going to drip on you. So make sure that that's all the way up, but if it drips, doesn't cool, the display doesn't work, or you can't adjust it or something like that, then you can call customer service and we'll step you through the process or do what we need to do to make it right. So that's really all the maintenance that's involved here. And again, just for a good general overview, you can go look at the KBC51SS. That will show you how to hook everything up. And then you have this video here to refer to as well. I hope that this do-it-yourself video has helped you to set up and run your new KBC51SS non-pressurized kegerator. If you have any questions or concerns, please contact EdgeStar, www.edgestar.com. Hi, this is David with EdgeStar Technical Support. Today we're going to be talking about the KBC51SS, our non-pressurized kegerator. We'll show you how to set it up, what comes in the box, and talk about how it all goes together. Alright, here we have our KBC51SS. This is our non-pressurized kegerator. I wanted to show you what comes in the box, and we'll talk about hooking it up. But one of the first things I want to cover here is to clear up some things about the unit. And the one thing about the unit that we need to clarify is that on the outside of your box and in the owner's manual, it says that this is used for can be used for draft beer and non-pressurized kegs. What we are doing is we're running this as a non-pressurized kegerator only. You can try to use it as a draft beer kegerator, but all you're going to get is foam. And so we recommend that you use it as a non-pressurized unit only. So let's get into what comes in the box, and we'll talk about some of the things that are in the packaging, and then we'll get into actually how to actually hook it up. And this is the unit. When you first get it, there's quite a bit of tape around it. There's tape here at the end of the spout. And if you open it up, there's a big button right here on top, and you're just going to open that up. It's spring-loaded. It'll swing back. And in here you'll find some cardboard packaging and tape, and that holds your tap here for use with the non-pressurized keg. And you'll take that out and unpack it, and then this will slide right out. And in here we have our beer line, which goes to our spout. This line is our CO2 or our gas line coming from our cartridge here, which is a cartridge / regulator. The regulator for the CO2 is built into the top of the unit. And what you'll do is you're going to unscrew this part, and you're going to load your CO2 cartridge into this, and then this whole assembly will screw back into here. And then once you've got your cartridge in place, you'll swing it back up and lock it in place, and that way you can get it shut